Oh yes, it's that time again. As we embark on a new year, today I'm going to be reflecting on the last and running through my top 10 G-Shock releases of 2023. If you're new here, welcome to Time Drops. I'm Andrew, and on this channel we talk pretty much all things watches, with a rather heavy lean towards G-Shocks. So much so, we drop monthly episodes of all of the latest releases, and now's the time we rank them all. We've seen an incredible amount of new G-Shocks in what is their anniversary year, so once again it's been very difficult to narrow them down to just 10, let alone put them into any sort of order. Yes, this is serious stuff by the way. But here we are, I've made my list, so without further ado, let's get into it all, shall we? Now, as always, I just want to start with some honourable mentions. These are a load of watches that are big hitters in their own right and may well have made it into your top 10, but have just missed out on mine. First up, we're going right back to the beginning of 2023 with the Utility Metal series, which offered a cloth banded option for the much loved half metal Casiokes, my favourite of which had to be the cream GM2100C-5A. Next up, I want to shout out both the DW6900 and the DW5000 from the Clear Remix series. The vault was unlocked for a series of 7 Gs, all of which featured transparent cases and straps, allowing you to stare right into their respective modules. These two in particular stood out for me, particularly the square with its hybrid style resin and stainless steel on its band. Speaking of stainless steel, we also saw some more full metal Casiokes, a couple of popping options featuring multicoloured dials, as well as a very much statement making fully gold option. One that didn't quite have the impact many of us were hoping for, despite looking very promising, was the DW-H5600. From the outset, things looked great. Finally, we were receiving a square with an MIP display. I also really enjoyed reviewing this one as I explored London Zoo. However, while it looked awesome and the day was set to be great, it soon became apparent that G-Shock tried to pack a little too much in, and the heart rate monitor in particular made this one a pretty uncomfortable drive for me, as I know was the case for many of you too. Another one that got to spend some time with the giraffes this summer was the all-new Mudman GW9500. Again, this looks set to be a real winner, and for the most part, it was, especially with its ProTrek style duplex display. However, while I love negative displays in general, on this green model, it was nigh on impossible to read at times, even in broad daylight. A positive display is definitely the way to go on this one, but sadly, it misses out on the top 10 for me. A few more for the mentions. Next up, we have a monster of a timepiece with the MRG Frogman. Released to commemorate the Frogman's 30th and G-Shock's 40th anniversary at the same time, there were in fact 2 MRG Frogmans this year, but it was the bold black and yellow option that did it for me. Just look at that. Continuing the yellow theme, we also saw the Subtract by Ed Sheeran, which seemed to divide opinion, if you will pardon the pun. This collab between Ed and Hodinkee formed the first part of the Hodinkee in Residence series and took design cues from the singer's latest album. If you checked out my full video on that one, you'll know I like this collab a lot, but again, hasn't quite made the 10. Next, we have the 6900 from the Ninja series, coming from a line of watches inspired by Japanese ninjutsu. This one in particular featured an awesome stealthy colorway with a striking look on its dial. We can't not mention the very cool retro square from the recently announced mixtape series, featuring not only a multicolored but also a multi-component construction. Next up, we have the excellent collab between G-Shock and Iserg, perhaps one of the funnest collaborations this year. This Japan exclusive Casioke not only features a sweet black and yellow colorway, but also, thanks to its aquatic theme, has whales splashed across the timepiece, most notably acting as the hand on its sub-dial. So many of these could have made my top 10 by the way, it was difficult not to do a top 25. Continuing the theme of collabs, we also saw the vintage inspired black full metal Casioke from G-Shock and Porter. This striking watch features an aged ion plating to give this one its faded aesthetic, with popping gold to perfectly accentuate. And last but by no means least, yet we're finally rounding off the honourable mentions, one I was very hyped about this year was the 6900 brought to us by G-Shock and Coca-Cola. Loved the green glass bottle inspiration behind this one, especially in combination with its white and red accents. So much so, I recently picked one up myself. If you're keen to see that one in more detail, let me know. Yep, that was quite a lot. All very strong options in their own right, but now is the time we move on to the all-important top 10. First up is this captivating blue GM2100 from the Adventurers Gem series. Released to commemorate G-Shock's 40th birthday, this series dropped right back at the beginning of the year, with each watch being inspired by various stones used by adventurers. So, rather fittingly, joined me on a family trip to Disneyland. I really liked this one from the off. Its pop in colour and design inspiration meant we saw something entirely new in the Casio line, boasting an impressively finished bezel and a mixed colour resin band, making each watch effectively one of a kind, as well as the vapour deposition on the dial, which does wonders in the light. I know this design isn't to everyone's taste, especially after seeing a few comments saying its cordiorite theme made it look like the dog had chewed it. But for me personally, I've enjoyed every minute of wearing this, so deservedly sits within my top 10. Next up, in at number 9, we have this awesome collab between G-Shock and Undefeated. Two brands I'm a big fan of joining forces and using my favourite model as the canvas, applying a punchy colourway that just works. I wear a lot of brown and mention in my review that we don't see it used on a G-Shock enough, and feel it especially suits the 6900 so well. Of course, this one comes packed with the functionality you'd expect, especially that electroluminescent backlight. I'll stop going on about these at some point. Maybe. The sneakerhead in me knew I'd love this from the outset, and it certainly didn't disappoint. On to number 8. Okay, here at number 8, it's time to elevate with the MRG B2000 SG-1A. Once again, released as a 40th anniversary model, this Japanese helmet-inspired timepiece boasts the finest of materials, finished with an incredible attention to detail. What an absolute beaut of a beast this is. These releases simply cannot miss out on the top 10, and ordinarily would finish higher. However, with only one band option and that band being bright white, although it looks awesome out the box, does make you wonder whether it will stay that way once you wear it out and about. Hats off to you if you've got one though, one heck of a timepiece. Next up, we have the Square from the Recrystallised series. This incredibly popular model came from a series that, in fact, featured 3 squares. 2 full metal options in gold and silver, offering an almost bust down look for your G-Shock thanks to the techniques applied, as well as the one I'm listing in at number 7, the resin black and gold DW5040 PG-1. I said back when we first featured this model on the channel that it was everything you'd expect and want from an anniversary release, by being such a close representation of the model that's helped build the G-Shock name, while adding in some very special touches to commemorate the brand's 40th, especially with its gold dial and star on its lower left button, as well as its Project Team Tough label on the face, in reference to Mr. eBay's original team name when developing the G-Shock in the 1980s. Such a great release, and one I imagine will be number 1 for many of you in 2023. Let's move on to number 6, shall we? Next up, we have the completely new fitness-focused model brought to us this year in the GBD H2000. This model featured the entire extensive list of functionality of the previous 1000, but introduced multi-sport support thanks to the addition of its gyroscope, as well as ultra-reliable solar power and a new enhanced interface. The upgrades continued with a newly designed slimmer case and strap system, making this more compact and a significant 38% lighter than its predecessor at just 63 grams rather than 101. I love this neon and black version in particular, especially with its popping pink accents. A very solid addition to 2023 and the G-Shock catalogue overall. By the way, I'll leave links to each of these models in the description if you're interested in picking any of them up yourself. Okay, things are getting serious now. Top 5. Here we go. In at number 5 is a watch from a pair of captivating carbon squares. Once again, celebrating their 40th birthday, G-Shock released what are essentially fully carbon versions of the GMW B5000 that feature a carbon core guard structure, a forged carbon bezel and band, a carbon monocoque case, and a sapphire crystal glass display, all of which comes together to look unreal. As I'm sure you can imagine, due to this construction, these models are very light, weighing a mere 65 grams, making them around 100 grams lighter than a full metal square. It was very difficult to pick between the two of them, but in the interest of picking one for this list, it's the incredibly distinctive look of the Galaxy style GCW B5000 UN-6 that takes the crown for me. Full transparency, I haven't yet had one in hand, which, being completely honest, is most likely why this isn't featuring higher in the list. I'm thinking about picking one up to bring on the channel though, so let me know if that's something you'd want to see. And of course, let me know which one you think I should go for. 4. Let's get on to that. Coming straight from my most recent review at 2+2 is the G-Shock GWG B1000, also known as G-Shock's all-new Mudmaster. This series was introduced to us with 3 new models that included a forest green, a stealthy black, and my pick of the bunch, this awesome red. This one was the first Mudmaster for a couple of years and introduced a totally new display layout never before seen on a G-Shock, with subdials for altitude and barometric pressure difference on the left, and destination bearing indication on the right. Continuing the new, this series also marked the first G-Shock to combine tough solar, a triple sensor, and Bluetooth all in one. This new Mudmaster was constructed with a combination of carbon fiber reinforced resin and stainless steel, and its dial protected by sapphire crystal glass. Despite packing more in, this one just feels more refined, somehow enhancing its rugged aesthetic while also demonstrating its incredible attention to detail. This is my favourite Mudmaster so far, and another absolute cracker of a release from the Japanese giants. Guys, we're here. Things are getting very real now. Top 3. The excitement is palpable, isn't it? In at number 3 is the recently released black and gold GM 6900 in collaboration with Bape. Those familiar with the channel will know that releases such as these bring a whole lot of nostalgia for me. The white 6900 from Bape and G-Shock was the very first one I ever owned, and is seemingly responsible for getting me fully hooked on these things. So anytime the pair collaborate, it immediately grabs my attention, and the fact they used a half metal 6900 for this drop made it an even easier sale. This watch, celebrating Bape's 30th anniversary, features a black iron-plated stainless steel bezel with Bape camo markings, a pattern very much synonymous with the brand. We also see the Bape logo and Busy Works printed on the watch's face, and the front light button is labelled B instead of the usual G. This one also arrives with an additional camo fabric band, which is wicked. Such a cool piece, and one I feel is very deserving of its place in the top 3. What's at number 2? Let's see. Taking second place in the top 10 is the mesmerising MTG Aurora Oval. Just look at that. This release is probably the one that got me the most hyped this year. I'd been toying with getting a B3000 for ages and was funnily enough eyeing up the stealth version, just a bit different from this one. Well, when this one was announced, I just had to see it up close. Inspired by the stunning Aurora Borealis, otherwise known as the Northern Lights, this incredibly unique timepiece features a stainless steel bezel with a rainbow iron plating that's recrystallised, all of which combines to cause absolute chaos when the light hits. I had high expectations for this, and once again did not disappoint once it arrived. The rainbow-esque colourway is crazy and makes this one every bit classify as a statement piece, a conversation starter, and all the rest of it. Once again, I'm aware this is very punchy and not to everyone's taste, but for those of us that are fans of G-Shocks with popping colours, this one does everything right. Right, here we are, the top spot. Have you guessed it? Have you just skipped forward? Either way, drum roll please. Taking my top spot this year is none other than the mighty return of the 6600. The DW 6640 from the Remaster Black series. The revival of this iconic timepiece was unveiled from the G-Shock Vault back in May of 2023 and took most of us by surprise. Celebrating G-Shock's 40th birthday once again, the Remaster Black series is based on the 4 classics of G-Shock, which included the 5600, the 6900, the GA110 and the GA2100. However, the newly revived 6600, in a rather surprising twist, took the place of the 6900 in this special collection, which I was not mad at all. To be honest, there's multiple reasons why this is my winner. A return of a classic model we thought was done for, a brilliant black and gold colourway, perfect commemorative touches throughout, and all at an awesome affordable price, meaning it qualifies as a perfect option for a daily watch with some cool talking points behind it. Plus, it's now brought the hype back and paved the way for more 6600s. No better demonstrated than with the PC-5 we recently featured. Love that model too, and it could well have joined this one at the top spot, but this one was first. This 6640 has taken a whole lot of wrist time off my earth tone Cassiope, which is no mean feat, so it's only right it takes the crown. Number 1, the G-Shock DW 6640 RE-1. So there we have it. What do you think? Do you agree with my top 10? Do you disagree? Let me know which release would take the top spot in yours down below. I think it's fair to say it's been one heck of a year of G-Shock releases once again, and it doesn't look like there's any sign of slowing down with a brand new Rangeman on the horizon. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to join the awesome community we're building here. And lastly, I just want to wish you all the best for 2024. Here's to an awesome year. Take care.